So, the iPhone 17 Pro Max. This review took me a little bit longer than I expected, but probably it's a good thing because I had a little bit more time to test it, edit, and get my thoughts together. Either way, let's jump in without any further ado, because this is usually what we do, right? We jump in and it happens, so anyway.
Let's talk about iPhone.
But is it so amazing? Or if it's overhyped, is it a good solution to make a unibody? Or it's a poor decision? Let's find out. But first, let's take a look what is in the box. When you open the box with your new iPhone, the first thing that you see is that it's different from the last year models, and it's simply because of the new aluminum unibody. And you may ask, is it a good idea to have aluminum on the iPhone? And it's kind of complicated because aluminum is really great for heat dissipation, and the previous models had some issues with heat dissipation. So theoretically, this model should be much better than the previous models in terms of overheating. Also, specifically for the Pro models, Apple introduced the vapor chamber that helps to dissipate heat even more. So I think this phone shouldn't have any issues with heat whatsoever. At least for me, I haven't had any issues. I tested it with very performance demanding games and I think it is fixed. Another thing is about the shell itself. It is scratchable for sure, and recently Apple even answered to people officially that it's basically a residue. It's not scratches, but well, those are scratches. The residue statement is fair only for the glass parts of the phone. For the aluminum, well, it is for the glass parts of the phone. For the aluminum, well, it is getting scratched and there is no doubt about it. For my phone, I've been using it for about a week and a half, brand new, and I am happy with its look. Although I decided to use a case with the phone, I am not the biggest fan of cases, but in this case, I probably will use a case. No pun intended.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Also, I really like how it sits in your hand. It has slightly more curvature around the corners and it feels slightly more slippery, but at the same time, it's very nice to hold it in the hand. The shape is very nice and it's definitely different from the last year models. Yeah, I like it a lot and well, in person, the feeling of aluminum, which feels slightly warmer as a metal than titanium or steel before that, is quite nice. So all in all, it's a nice upgrade for the design. So I would say that I rather like it than not. Many people don't like the design, but trust me, when you seeing it in person and you kind of looking at it and it's in your hands, it feels differently for sure. So it feels really good. Also, I like the bump here because when you hold it, you basically can just support it with your finger and it feels a little bit more convenient to hold your phone this way. And I like that too. Also, another cool thing that Apple announced this year about the screen is that it's less reflective because they use some kind of surface that is merged with the glass underneath at the atomic level, and it reflects way less reflections than a regular iPhone screen. In practice though, you cannot see it with your bare eye. For a regular consumer, it doesn't make any difference, and well, for me, it doesn't make any difference as well, because when I use my phone, I don't have another iPhone to compare. I just use it as it is, and this is my reference point, and I don't see that decrease in glares. So it reflects light for sure. It's not a matte screen for sure, and I'm glad that it's not a matte screen because the blacks are still very deep, and you don't have that kind of washed out look that you have with matte screens for the black colors. But at the same time, it's not any better. Maybe by a little percentage, but like I didn't notice it for sure. The most important upgrade of this year for the Pro models is the cameras. All cameras, all three of them are 48 megapixels now, and they are all fusion cameras, and it means that you will have a little bit more details every time you take a picture or you record a video. Also, the sensor is slightly bigger, and it means that you will have slightly less noise when it's dark, and you will have a little bit more bokeh in applicable situations. If we talk about camera qualities overall, I think that if you are not professional, you will not see any significant improvements right away from your phone. Yes, it will be some gradual improvement, but nothing crazy. If you want to get the maximum out of your phone for photography, you need to choose RAW format and shoot in it, and then you can color grade because you can have all that information in that format, although it's going to be much bigger, but it's for some specific cases when you need so much information to work with shadows, to work with lights and all that, and color grade it properly. And the same is applicable for footage, because if you shoot video, you need to choose ProRes and work with ProRes to get the maximum out of it. Otherwise, iPhone will apply its usual over sharpen, and sometimes I notice that it overexposes footages and photos, and it happens pretty often. So for photos, I would recommend to lower your exposure by 0.3 at least, or better 0.7, and save that setting. And for footages, well, the same thing, but again, ProRes is pretty good, and working with ProRes is pretty easy in DaVinci Resolve. They have those profiles and you can load it up and color grade, and you definitely can pull out something really cinematic out of that footage. No question about that. This year's cameras has 3 main physical modes and 2 extra fusion modes that are digital interpolation based on what they call fusion cameras. In simple terms, use the main 3 for quality photos and the other 2 for quick point and shoot. Here is the difference between the ultrawide, 1x, 2x, 4x, and 8x. 8x isn't bad, to be honest, since it uses a 48 megapixel sensor to give you the necessary detail, but keep in mind it needs relatively bright light to look good, otherwise it quickly gets soft and mushy. Macro is traditionally good, but requires more light as well. Video-wise, everything is pretty much the same, besides slight improvements. It still has that familiar overexposed iPhone look. It's not bad though, even with the H.265 codec, but I don't love it simply because sometimes it overprocesses the footage and you get that unpleasant digital sharpness, which I absolutely hate. Apple ProRes 422 is good enough in my opinion, but if you really want to push it, you can use Apple ProRes RAW, although in my opinion, if you are not filming 28 years later, you'll be just fine without it.
Looks weird.
You're weird.
All in all, I would say that the camera's got its improvement, but you need to know how to work with it. For regular customers, it's not going to be a big difference. And yeah, it's mostly about the resolution.
So this is Apple ProRes RAW Log 2, and we are in my garage right now, /workshop/gym. I love this space, but as you can see, it's not as bright. So we have an LED light here. We have some openings in the garage door, a medium-sized window over there, and the TV.
Another thing that I would like to mention is the selfie camera. The front camera has improved this year as well. It's now 18 megapixels versus 12 before. But what is important is the sensor. The sensor is square. And now you can film yourself vertically as usual. But at the same time, you can press a button and the camera will turn, and you can start filming yourself horizontally. And this is very, very convenient because you don't need to move your phone around, and you can hold it and you will have a better grip and all that. So it's about flexibility of filming different things, and the camera is wider as well. So it is significantly wider, and they have a central stage which is still a gimmick for me, but for many people it might be convenient. And here is a video from the frontal camera, and well, generally it is not bad. This is horizontal video that I'm filming from the front camera, which is possible with this version of the whole iPhone lineup. But well, is it good or not? I don't know. I think I'll put it in my case now. Now, let's talk about the performance, because the performance is important. I played Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil Village, and both of these games run flawlessly on the iPhone 17 Pro. After some time, though, it gets a bit warm, but not as hot as the previous Pro versions. Although I didn't measure the temperature precisely, since it wasn't the main priority for me.
Where the hell am I?
Talking about performance, I need to mention that this year iPhones Pro have 12GB of RAM versus 8GB of RAM last year versus 6GB of RAM in my iPhone 13 Pro. And in comparison with those, it definitely is smoother, it definitely is a better experience, but in the real world situations, it's kind of close, because if you open something, let's say 15 minutes ago, and you decide to come back to that task, it will need still to reload, and that's what makes a difference. It really depends from case to case. For example, if you're running some kind of a RAM consuming task right now, for sure it will unload other tasks from the memory, but if you are running a lot of small tasks, you can switch between them with no any issues. Also, what I see as an advantage for such a big RAM is that you can run bigger LLM models locally on your device, and I tested a couple of models and they were running perfectly well, they were fast, but they were smaller models. I would prefer to see something of a medium size from Apple running locally on these devices soon, and I hope it will happen. Another interesting thing about these phones is that there are some regional differences that affect the size of the battery. So, for example, here in Canada and in the United States, we don't have any option to buy these phones with physical SIM cards. And because of that, because there is no any SIM card tray on the side of the phone, we get a slightly bigger battery, so it's quite an advantage, and it transfers to about 2 hours of watching videos extra, give it or take. For us, it's definitely a bonus, but if you opt to using a physical SIM card, you need to buy from China, because they don't have any option to buy it with eSIM, and they have that SIM card tray on the side of the phone, but the battery there is slightly smaller. So you can pick your poison, but I think if you need the biggest battery, you need to buy it either from Canada or from the United States. Okay, now it's 11:20 p.m. and the battery is at 23%, as you can see, which is pretty not bad. And there is absolutely no way my previous iPhone 13 Pro Max with its 80% of the battery health left would stay as long. And sure, yeah, it's unfair comparison between the old phone and the new phone. Yes, it is degraded, it is 4 years old, but at the same time, the difference is showing itself, and it's a good thing. And before we finish this video, I would like to invite you to our social platform, which is called PIEMESSENGER, and it's an amazing mix of messenger and social network where you can share your experiences, contact with your favorite people, and just discuss different things. We develop it, I invite you to try, and if you like it, to stay. So yeah, join it. I really hope that you will like it, because we tried to make it good. If we talk about connectivity, again, it's a good upgrade. We got Wi-Fi 7, we got Bluetooth 6. What else? MagSafe is 25 watt now, and it's a good improvement, although you need to buy the new MagSafe for that, obviously, and you need to buy the new power brick for that, obviously, because there is no power brick in the box with your phone. And well, it's all obvious simply because Apple need to earn more money.
Absolutely amazing.
But should you upgrade your phone to this? Well, it depends. If you have iPhone 12 or earlier, I would say why you didn't before, because it totally makes sense to upgrade. But if you have iPhone 13 or 14, really consider to wait for another year, because next year we will see the foldable phone from Apple, and it will be much more interesting time to buy a phone from Apple. If you have iPhone 15 or 16, especially the Pro models, I would say no, don't do that, because the upgrade is not worth it. It's going to be pretty much identical in terms of experience. Performance will be pretty much identical. The UI will be pretty much identical. The experience overall will be pretty much identical, so don't do it. And I would also say that the titanium part of those phones is much better solution than the aluminum part of this phone, even if it overheats slightly sometimes in the summer. Just don't upgrade to this. Just wait for another year at least, or better 2, and then upgrade. But for me it was necessary. After some time using this phone, I generally like it. Again, I don't love it. For me it's probably 6, maybe 7 out of 10 upgrade in my opinion. It's not perfect, but at least it feels something new after I owned my iPhone 13 Pro Max for 4 years. For me, it's a good upgrade. Will it be a good upgrade for you? Well, it really depends on who you are, what you are expecting from this phone, and if you like this video or not, because I would recommend to do so. I got you. Anyway, thank you for your time. Ciao.